Welcome back, everybody, to episode 4 of Believe in the Wolfpack. I am your host, Luke Nichols. Happy that you're joining me yet again, but we got a lot to get into. Got the basketball game against UT Martin, got Tennessee coming up, some football news, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So, just last night, the Wolfpack took down UT Martin 81-67. Again, kind of like the Liberty game where you're going into it thinking, okay, it should be a relatively easy game. I think the line was NC State minus 19 and a half, I want to say. I know it was at least 15 and a half. But so they're going into it. It's a close game most of the time still, but then again, they just really pulled away in the second half, right around the, I want to say, 10-minute mark. They really started to kind of, knock down some shots, find the open shots, really get into a flow, went on a big run. And although it was only a 14-point win, so if you're, you know, going with what Vegas is telling you, UT Martin played pretty well. They played above average. They played better than expected. But I want to get to the post game interview with DJ Burns because what he said really kind of, caught my attention and I really liked it, honestly. He said that, we can go on these big runs. We know we can do that, but we need to play more consistently. And I like that mindset from him. But at the same time, basketball is a game of runs. That's what it is. It's what it's known for. It's what it's pretty much always been. So if you can, go on these big runs, like a lot of teams, a lot of teams struggle with getting these big runs. Teams can play consistently, but they can't exactly, really bury their opponents when crunch time rolls around. They can't go on these 10-0 runs, these 12-0 runs, these 13-3 runs and whatnot. NC State, the Wolfpack, we know they can do that. They've showed that already just in a few games this year. So, I mean, I get that. Obviously, every team wants to play their best game every time. Every team wants to shoot 100% from the field. They want to score 1,000,000 points. That's just not going to happen. So the fact that you can go on these big runs is already a great sign. And honestly, I think if you can just keep it close, like they kept it close the entire time last night. It's not like they fell by, they were down by 10 or they were down by 12 or anything to UT Martin. They were in control of the game for the most part, even when it was close, whether it was a 2-point lead, 4-point lead, even tied, they were always in control and you always kind of felt safe watching the game. Like, all right, they're going to pull this out eventually. They just, they will. So that's kind of a good formula, especially when you go up against the better teams, the Tennessees. We'll get to that later. But when you get to ACC play later, or I guess next year, yeah. When you get to ACC play next year, if you can keep the games close, if you're, going into the second half, if you're tied going into the second half, you keep it close, and then just like you did against UT Martin, you can go on a run late in the second half. You go on a 10-0 run. I mean, you even go on an 8-0 run late enough in the second half. That's a backbreaker for the other team. So it's a really good philosophy to have for a team is, we just got to keep it close because then a run is going to show up at some point. I mean, we saw a bunch of guys just drilling shots. DJ Horn, one of them. DJ Horn was 6 for 10 from 3. He had 22 points. He's shooting 60% from beyond the arc. That's incredible. But still, I mean, if you just keep the game close and then pull away, that's great. I mean, that's great. Like I said, a lot of teams, they struggle to have these big runs. A lot of times you're watching the game being like, all right, they just got to go on a run. At one point, whenever your team is playing worse enough, I've watched enough basketball in my life where I'm thinking to myself, all right, if they just go on a big run, we'll be okay. You know what never happens? The big run. So it's good that they have this already, maybe not locked down. It's not a surefire thing. But early on in the year, we're already noticing what this Wolfpack team can do. Once they get hot, they just start to pile it on. And it's been great to see. But the numbers from last night, like I said, DJ Horn, he had 22 points, 6 of 10 from 3. Like I said, it's unbelievable. Jaden Taylor, a quieter night. He still had 13 points, 6 rebounds, only 5 of 13 from the field, and 3 of 8 from beyond. But then DJ Burns, he had 10 points, didn't want to sell him short here. 10 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 5 blocks. The team had 5 blocks. He had every block for the Wolfpack last night. That's unbelievable. No Mo Diarra last night either. So he had 27 minutes last night. I believe Middlebrooks played about 10 minutes. So Diarra would have got at least more of that, or at least gave Burns more of a rest. Regardless, played great. Had 4 assists. That was the most on the team last night, and the most blocks on the team last night, and the most rebounds. I mean, I just thought that was a given. Being you get a double double, it's hard to find. Actually, Parker wasn't too far behind him. He had 10 rebounds as well and 14 points. Didn't want to leave him out of it. But back to my point about Burns, I already kind of made the point in the last show about, you can play through him. He's got such a nice just touch around the rim. He's very smart with the ball. And that's just going to be such a major factor. Maybe more than I even think. Trusting your big man with the ball. And, he's going to be smart with it. He's going to make the right plays. Also, side note, that kind of brings me to what I was thinking about earlier today. How nice is it to have a few just superstar centers in the league right now, in the NBA specifically? I mean, in college, you see it everywhere. You see there's plenty of big men. I mean, look at Zach Edey in Purdue. That's probably the most notorious center that's played in college since Greg Oden, maybe? Regardless, player of the year, all that, we know about Edey. But the NBA, there was a few years where there was a shortage on the superstar big men, where the 2012 team, the second dream team, their starting center was Tyson Chandler. Tyson Chandler had like 4, 5 really good years. I mean, Dwight Howard was incredible. Dwight Howard, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, who should have been on the top 75 all-time NBA team. I cannot believe he was left off that list. Look at Dwight Howard's basketball reference page, and he should be on the top 75. But my point, it's just so nice to have these big centers, these superstar centers back in the game today, because there was a real shortage on it, and watching them is such a treat. Watching Jokic, watching Embiid, Wembanyama soon enough, even Sabonis, even when Domantas Sabonis gets going, it's just good basketball. I mean, it's also just these guys are all 7 feet tall plus, and they're moving like they're guards, and they're moving like almost nobody else in the world can move like that. So it's nice watching a center really kind of dominate and impose his will in the game in any way. Jokic with the passing, Embiid with the scoring, Wembanyama with being 7'4" and shooting from 5 feet beyond the 3-point line. So it's just always fun to watch. Watching centers is always a joy. Center highlights as well. Hakeem, Shaq, even David Robinson. Talking about a guy who's a little bit underrated. All right, I'm going off a whole tangent. That's besides the point. Maybe we'll do a whole centers and NBA greats and who doesn't get enough love type show. Moses Malone, number 1. All right, back to the point. Back to the game last night, UT Martin. MJ Rice, he's coming off the bench still. I mean, I imagine he's going to be the 6th man for most of the year, but he was the leading scorer off the bench as well, with 7 points in just 16 minutes of playing time. But the 16 minutes was, he's the 6th man. That was the most anyone played off the bench last night. He had 16. I think the next closest was, O'Connell had 14. But I mean, MJ Rice already being the 6-man role, already getting the most minutes off the bench after he just made his debut in the game prior. That's pretty big. That's pretty big, and that shows that Keats is trusting him, and that shows that he's healthy and that he's ready to go. So, I mean, honestly, I thought maybe they'd wait a little more. Maybe they'd wait until the new year, or at least later in December, to really kind of throw him into the 6-man role. But if we keep kind of going on this track, he's going to be practically one of the guys off the bench that, kind of turns into a starter. Like almost every 6th man in any, on any team at this point. I was going to say just the NBA, just because I remember a few years ago when Tyler Hero was playing 30 minutes a game coming off the bench. But MJ Rice, that's pretty much every team. But MJ Rice could be that role where he's coming off the bench and he's getting, if not more minutes than some of the starters, even minutes as some of the starters. So it's really good to see the 5-star recruit already kind of finding his own and finding his role and already having the confidence in himself and his teammates in Kevin Keats. So it's been nice to see, especially so quickly. But this Saturday, 10 o'clock, I believe it's on ESPN too. But this Saturday, 10 o'clock, taking on 12th ranked Tennessee. Just a huge game. Trying to pull off the upset. This would be a game where you want to keep it close. Like I said earlier, you want to keep it close. So then, if you can get to the second half, then you go on that big run that you're, so good at going on. You just perform so well, execute so well, I should say. This is the game to do it, where you keep it close, you play good defense. You force tough shots, you make a few tough shots yourself, and just try and keep it close. If you go into halftime either I mean, if you're going to halftime up by 50, that's ideal. That is fully ideal. Don't get me wrong. People say, "Oh, watching a blowout is so boring." No, 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 no. I'll take my teams blowing out the other team and having a relaxing day every day of the week over a nitty gritty, hard fought, stressful game. I'll take feeling confident and comfortable going into the second half or the third quarter every single time over a close game that's entertaining. Please. But my point, if you can go into half, I'm not saying they're going to blow out Tennessee. I'd be foolish to assume that. If you can go into the half with it close, you're up by 4, you're down by 4, down by 2, you're tied, you're in a good spot for the second half. At least that's my mindset. If you can keep it close at halftime where you don't kind of dig yourself into a hole, you're set up pretty well for the second half to go on that run. But the most important aspect is clearly stopping Connect. He's averaging 18 points a game, 38% from beyond the arc. He's 6'6", 204 pounds. He's listed as a guard, and he's 6'6", 204 pounds. He scored 37 points in the loss to North Carolina, and yeah, they lost, but he was still getting buckets. He still scored 37 points. 37 points isn't nothing to nothing to ignore. But he did also just score 7 against Georgia Southern. That's in a game that they won by about 20. So he just had a poor shooting night. I think he was like 2 for 8 from the field. So I think you got to run him off the 3-point line because he's a fantastic 3-point shooter. He can rise up over almost anybody. So if you can run him off the 3-point line and then kind of force him into the paint where you got Burns and Diarra waiting, especially Mo Diarra, he should be available for this game. At least that's what Kevin Keats said. So I'm hoping that, that's true. But if you can force him in and make it tough on him, make it hard to finish over DJ Burns, make it tough to finish over DR. We just saw, like I said, Burns had 5 blocks. He just had 5 blocks in a game. He's not going to let anybody get easy buckets around the rim. So that's kind of, you'll live with tough buckets inside. Even if he draws a foul and, the guys aren't in foul trouble, you'll live with that. You'll live with a few layups that, ooh, how did he make that? That was a circus layup. Ooh, finishing through contact. That's pretty good. The threes are what's going to kill you. If he's on fire, if he starts out the game and he makes his first 3, you got to close out on him. You got to run him off the 3-point line. You got to go over on every screen. You just got to do anything you can not to have him beat you from beyond. Because if he's shot 50% from 3 in the North Carolina game, you can't have that. You cannot have that. You got to force him inside. You got to make it tough on him. Kind of like when I was writing this down and thinking about it, I'm thinking like, I'm kind of just describing the Jordan rules, where you just drive him in and make it tough on him in the paint, kind of swarm him. Maybe not Jordan rules-esque, where the Pistons were just clotheslining him, kind of like Draymond Green the other night. But just make it tough on him. Don't give him any wide open layups. If he's driving in, you got to have a guy collapse. And I think he's only averaging about 4 assists, if that. I was way off. He's averaging 1.7 assists a game. So he's not the playmaker. He's not going to set other guys up. So if you can, close in on him when he's inside, when he's in the paint, there's a good chance that even if he tries to pass it out to an open man, may just not get there. Or he may just put up a shot. So I'm just hoping that he doesn't have it going. He's cold. Try to get him in. Oh, maybe I got to get something around the rim. Boom, Burns and Diarra right there to lock him down. And then even MJ Rice and DR off the bench are going to be big time whenever Connect is in, and then you got more of the bench guys in than the starters. MJ Rice is 6'6" as well. He can match up pretty well with Connect. Now Connect again averaging 18 points a game, dropped 37, dropped 30 another game. I'm not taking anything away from him by saying, or even not taking anything away from MJ Rice just by saying, oh yeah, you guys are the same height and near the same weight, both athletic. Just you can guard him, you can do that. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I'm just saying, coming off the bench could be MJ Rice that we see matching up against Connect whenever they're both on the floor at the same time. Before we take a break and get into some football and some transfer news today, just want to say the last matchup between NC State and Tennessee was November 24th, 2017, where the Volunteers won 67-58. Grant Williams, now on the Mavericks. Yeah, he's on the Mavericks now, was on the Celtics. He had 14 points in that game. And Admiral Schofield, honestly, it felt like he was the main option at Tennessee over Grant Williams. He was 0 for 6 from the field, and he fouled out. Not the best game for Admiral Schofield. Maybe Connect can have the same type of game. That would be nice. That's very wishful thinking. And then one last note: NC State has lost four games all time against Tennessee. Two of them were at neutral sites. Half of their losses were at neutral sites when they played Tennessee, and this week is at a neutral site. Not the best omen, but what are you going to do? All right, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, get into some football and the quarterback. The transfer quarterback, the 4-star transfer quarterback that just signed with the Wolfpack. All right, welcome back in. Believe in the Wolfpack. Going to get into some football and the 4-star transfer quarterback that just signed or committed to NC State. Not moving too far, only coming from Coastal Carolina. Grayson McCall was a 5-year player, 4-year starter at Coastal Carolina. He is going into his 6th year of eligibility with the Wolfpack. I imagine first year red shirt, or it could be either red shirt. Actually, I think it's, the COVID year was the 2020. So he had a COVID year and then also grad year. So that's what I'm assuming it is. So many guys now are doing red shirt freshman, red shirt sophomore, COVID year, grad year, masters, just because they can a 9th year. It's ridiculous to a point. But this will be his 6th year. His total numbers at Coastal Carolina: 69.9% completion percentage, 10,005 passing yards. Actually, kind of cool that he was only 5 yards exactly over 10,000, but 88 total touchdowns and only 14 interceptions. That's unbelievable. He was the starting quarterback when they went 11-1 in 2020. The only loss they had that year, was in the bowl game, the Mortgage Cure Bowl to Liberty, where they lost 37-34. A near undefeated season where I believe they finished 11th. Yeah, I believe they finished. Oh, yeah, they finished 11th in the official college football rankings. How they still do all 25 the last rankings of the year instead of just the 4 or I guess the 6 because they have the 2 guys that are out. But 11-1 when Coastal Carolina was doing pretty well, and he was their quarterback. Even then, I don't even think that was his best year. I mean, he had an incredible year in 2020. Just in 2020, he had a 68.8 completion percentage, 2,488 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. His touchdown to interception ratio is unbelievable. Most of these, I mean, this past year he got hurt, so didn't really have the season that he wanted. This past year, 67% completion, still pretty good, 1,919 passing yards, but then only 10 touchdowns and 6 picks. He didn't get to, I think, finish out the year. So, trying to get a fresh start at NC State. But even some of his other years, his 2021 year, 2,873 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And then 2022, he had 2,700 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He's just smart with the ball. And actually, I forgot his completion percentages. 2021, he had a 73% completion percentage. 73%. That's insane. And then 2022, it's 69.7% completion. I mean, he's just this is just a smart quarterback. He is just a smart player. Going into his 6th year as well, he's only going to get more intelligent, and he's only going to get more careful with the ball. And that's one thing. The touchdown numbers, he's still putting up 25 plus touchdowns almost every year. He was 3-time Sun Belt Player of the Year, and was also Sun Belt Freshman of the Year in 2020. This is just an experienced guy ready to take that next step and join the ACC and really play more of the big dogs. I think this past year was somewhat of a down year this past year for them. Lost to UCLA, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, and in the last 2 games to Army and JMU. They got smoked by JMU 56-14, but James Madison was awesome this year. That was fun to see. I really wish they went undefeated and could crack in the top 10 and, really give the committee a hard time. But that's besides the point. McCall, before he kind of battled some injuries throughout the last few years, he was viewed as a possible NFL draft pick. Now, whether that is, day 3, day 2, day 1 at this point, I can't recall, but maybe this is also a move. This is a move that benefits both sides. It benefits the Wolfpack and everybody. Just by him being here, we have a quarterback after MJ Morris transferred to Maryland. He was the next plan, and I think he just announced that he's transferring to Maryland as well. But he was the plan, and he transferred. That didn't work out. So McCall comes in with some experience, with some great numbers with Coastal Carolina. That was a winning team, a winning school, and he also kind of wants to get that recognition back of being a possible draft pick and possibly being a guy taken day 2, day 3, maybe even then, maybe day 1, maybe he plays out of his mind. NC State's going to start next year in the top 25. I'm almost sure of it. I mean, they finished 18 this year. Yeah, I believe they were 18. So they're going to be there. And they still have many more transfers to come in. Offers out there, guys still visiting. I mean, it's only going to be, more excitement and more guys coming in as we go along. We're still very early in the whole transfer window process. There's still guys even, entering the transfer portal. The quarterback from Texas, he just entered the portal. Not Ewers, not Arch Manning, obviously, but Texas QB. Oh, I'm drawing a complete blank. Malik Murphy, that's what it was. I knew it was something Murphy. Malik Murphy, he just entered the portal, and I think preseason he was listed as their second string quarterback over Arch Manning. So he'll most likely go somewhere to where he will be the starter. Now, whether that he transfers within the SEC or not, I don't know. It's very early because he just announced that he was transferring. At the time I'm recording this, he announced it, I think, an hour or 2 ago, maybe. So, and I did just see that Kyle McCord won't be going to Nebraska. there's a good chance he might just go back to Ohio State, honestly. Because then there was that article about, his players backing him up saying he got treated unfairly because you're expected to throw, 50 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and, 5,000 yards and be a Heisman candidate when it's like, he played pretty well. I do kind of agree with that, where you had Justin Fields and then CJ Stroud back to back. It's kind of hard to go back to, you go from this unbelievably elite quarterback play to still very good above average quarterback play, but you're not up here. So it's like, Ohio State fans, they're not used to it, whatever. But yeah, McCord isn't going to Nebraska, so maybe Malik Murphy will head there because Nebraska's been, at this right now, Nebraska is kind of like what Texas was a few years ago when they kept saying that they're back and kept trying to, really be back when in reality, still got a long way to go. So maybe Malik Murphy can really jumpstart Nebraska to getting back to that powerhouse that they were in the early 2000s, the 90s, pretty much almost always, besides the last 10 years, at least 5 years. So, I mean, regardless, getting Grayson McCall, again, went a bit off track, but that's okay. Getting McCall, a very experienced guy, and he's going to help KC Concepcion not even, it's going to be incredible. Concepcion coming off an incredible freshman year, already offered number 10 to McCall, and McCall said, no, you keep it. You keep it. I'm good. He's even playing in their bowl game. they still qualified for a bowl game, and honestly, they're playing in the Easy Post Hawaii Bowl that's being held in Honolulu. Is that I want to be there for my guys, or I want to go to Hawaii? Now, it's definitely he wants to be there for his guys and finish out the year. I mean, he's built relationships with these coaches and players for 5 years now. Of course, he wants to be there. I don't blame him at all for playing in that game. I'm perfectly fine with it. It just shows that he's loyal and that he's a leader, and he wants to kind of really finish what he started there before coming over here to the good side, to the not the teal. Yeah, nice red, black, and white, as you can see, and a much better logo. I gotta say, the wolf, it's just incredible. Think about it every time, even the little hat. Love it. So, getting McCall, it's going to be great. I mean, the offense is going to be even better than what we expected, and even then, got plenty of time for some more transfers coming over to the Wolfpack. I love the transfer portal. I'm keeping up with recruiting. Not much real recruiting stuff. The biggest news was that lineman that committed to Colorado, and we already really covered that. But anything major with recruiting, trust me, I'll be on it. Final note before we wrap up tonight's show, the 4th episode of Believe in the Wolfpack. Joe Shimko, the long snapper for the Wolfpack, that won the Patrick Meneley Award for the best long snapper in the country. I don't know if I'm just seeing it on Instagram now, but I saw the picture of him kind of posted up with the trophy that he got. That may be the coolest trophy I've ever seen. That may be the best trophy of anything. I'm talking the Heisman, Lombardi Trophy, the Stanley Cup, NBA Finals, whatever. That may be the best award and the best piece of hardware you can win. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. It's huge too. It is huge. It's got, it's pretty much just like a long snapper. It's a long snapper's hands. And if you haven't seen it, just go to the Instagram now and look at it on the Pack Football Instagram. It's down there. You'll see it. Trust me. You will see it. You'll know once you see it. It's got the long snapper's hands holding the ball, ready to snap it back. The forearms are on it, and it's huge. It is huge. It's a beautiful trophy. I mean, I guess I never paid attention to, trophies for long snappers until now. My bad. I'm sorry for the ignorance, truly, because this thing is beautiful. If you ask me, if I won award where it's like, all right, you can pick any trophy you want. That may be my first option. It's absolutely going to be a finalist. I love it. I saw it and my jaw dropped. It was incredible. And you got some of them where it's kind of like the NCAA kind of plaques that you get when you make the Final Four or win a championship, when it's just a plaque and it says, oh, Final Four or region champion, conference champion, whatever. Yeah, they get the job done, but they're boring. In the end, it just looks like a piece of wood with a little piece of glass that says your name that they slapped on there real quick. Listen, give me this long snapper trophy almost every trophy in any league, in anything. I'm saying almost just because, there may be another that I see that's like, you know what? I can't leave it out of the equation. But of everything, every other trophy that I know of and that I can picture in my head, this long snapper one is incredible. It's got to be number one for me. It's just unbelievable. It's great. Oh, it was awesome. I just looking at it, I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, congrats again to Joe Shimko for winning the best long snapper in the country, and congrats for winning the best trophy in the country as well. It's a thing of beauty. Please go check it out. But that'll conclude episode 4 of Believe in the Wolfpack. I appreciate everyone tuning in yet again, and we'll see you next time.